Composer Gloves here, and today we're going to be talking about making detuned lead chords that aren't necessarily out of tune. So without further ado, I'm going to show you a little demo sound. So here it is. This is the demo sound. It's pretty corny, a little cheesy. It works in a higher octave, so if you were to take this, move it up an octave. So you could layer octaves together. Good thing to layer things to. And it sounds like it's pretty in tune, but it's got that detuned feel. If you really don't like the detuned feel, the tuned side of it, we could get rid of it. That's one layer. And then the other side, sounds like this. And together they form a monster. And I also have a little, let me make sure I hit the correct Alt key. This is a little pitch ornament thing you could throw in your track later on in the track. Maybe it's something you want. That's a pretty interesting thing. Another interesting thing that I did not incorporate into this sound, but it would be interesting, I think, is if you were to take, let's turn off side B real quick. Go to filter, edit articulator, turn this on, turn it on like that-ish. I'll be right back. My door is being opened by a magic monster. Monster vanquished. Okay, so it's a really neat thing, this envelope type deal. You can't accomplish this sound any other way. Unless I guess you could if you do automation. I shouldn't be saying stuff like that, but it's not an easily accomplished sound as easily as what I just did right here. Very easy to do this way. So it's kind of an interesting thing. So let's talk about the creation of the patch. And I'm going to turn this pitch thing off. It's like you'd maybe use that once or twice in your track and that's it. So, okay. Let's close that. Okie dokie. So what is the deal? What's going on here? Well, first, let's turn this off because I did not use it in my original demo. So I opened it up and I'm like, I want a detune chord thing, but I don't want it to be a simple detune chord thing. A simple one, really easy one to make if you really want just a classic one. You have a saw wave, turn it up, turn that up, turn these. Well, these don't really matter, but you go up. Really, really, really easy. And then you add like some reverb and and if that's not enough for you, you can turn it up more. That's your super stereotypical classic sort of lead detune thing. Like it could be covered in, it's really just those few steps. So what's this mess? I'm using most of Harmor. I've at least messed with it. I tried messing with most of the features. So even though I just said that, it's a little complicated. So it started out with me doing that very move I just showed you where I just turned this on and you can see the relative same move right there. Then I turned the chorus on because I was like, dude, man, bro, that unison's eating all my CPU and I want my CPU to be friendly to me today. So I turned it down a little bit and accomplished a similar effect with chorus. This is the sound for this side. So, and I was working with the sound for a long time. So I was listening to it and I'm like, nah, that still sucks. So I went to the timbre window and messed with the timbre. And I was like, hey, that's pretty interesting. And then I came over to effects and I actually didn't add compression until way later. I turned on the reverb, got a reverb I liked. I was like, that's cool. I messed with a huge amount of distortions and decided I didn't like them. But if there was one I did like, it was soft saturation. If I turn it off, I like the soft saturation actually more. Just has a warmer feel to it. It's a very subtle thing. And then I was like, all right, now I got to detune this more. I've not detuned it enough. And so I went to the prison and I'm afraid to touch this knob. I pushed this just because I was in the mode of pushing buttons and occasionally that happens. You don't make every move Sometimes you just push buttons. Okay, I have no excuse for pushing that button. I'm sorry. I should have known what I was doing, but I didn't make a conscious decision. So anyways, I was like, all right, I want to spread this crap out. So I did. And you get that with it not on. So I was like, okay. And so I was like, okay, that works. And I was like, oh man, bro, what if I turn the harmonizer on? So I did, and I messed with the steps a bunch until I got a variation on it that I liked. Because I knew I was moving away from the pitch, so I had to be careful with a few of these moves, especially this one and this one. So I was conscious that I was probably going to have to create some way to get back to this. And I was like, how can I make this more interesting? And I'm like, oh, well, I know, I'll turn the phaser on. And I'll turn on the cascade. That's unusual. I'll leave that alone. Didn't get that crazy. No, I believe I changed it to octave. Is that octave the default? No, octave is the default. I didn't do anything crazy there. But then I was like, what if I go into the envelopes and mess with the width? So the width slightly opens up or goes down. It changes. Okay, that's the point. It's changing. That was what I was going for. Changing width. So the width is slightly moving back and forth as the sound goes. So that creates interest, a more interesting sound. The speed, I slowed it down. I was like, whoa, bro, freaking take your time, Mr. Phaser. And the phaser's like, okay. And then I turned on EQ, cut out some of the lows. Well, this is technically the really lows. This is like, to me, this is more like low mids. So still low though. Messed with the resonance, which actually I think the resonance is giving me a boost up top. You could see it, sort of. And I turned it on wide bump. I was messing with the idea of the filter, but then I got this really awesome, nice pluck sound that I was like, oh, this is a really great pluck sound, but it wasn't a detuned chord lead, so I ditched it and I said, oh, I'll come back to it some other day. So that's what I did. And I turned on sub reinforcement because originally I was like, what if, oh, down an octave sound kind of cool. Because I still hadn't turned on part B. I was still like, nah, I don't need part B. Then I came over here and I said, hey, what if I mess with the blur? And I turned on the beginning of the blur and it blurred in because I turned it on quite a bit. And I was like, no, I don't want that. I want release time blur. So that's what I did. And then as you can see, I messed with the harmonizer and I changed, I forgot what this is. I believe it's tension. Yeah, bottom tension. And what I've done is this changes the harmonics on the harmonizer. This affects how the harmonics blur. And these settings affect the harmonics, not the fundamental. So without it on, which is what I was working with at the time, by the way. I had that in my head the whole time and I was like, oh, okay, yeah. And then I was like, man, that thing is not going to fly as a separate thing and be able to get it in tune somehow. Plus, it'd be a pretty corny track I'm making right now. Right now, I'm thinking of like some corny track. I don't even know. But so I turn the mix on. And it fades that detune in. So I get sort of a pitch at the beginning so I can fool people into thinking I'm playing notes. That was the idea behind this section over here. I was like, oh, yeah. And after that, let's see here. Then I went to compression. But I had a terrible problem with it compressing my reverb. And it sounded like total crap. So I went to advanced tab. And I moved my compression before my reverb and before my delay. But I never turned the delay on. I just did that. So yeah, I moved it there. And so now it compressed just of my process sound with all that processing with the chorus and distortion on it, but it did not process the reverb. If I move it after the reverb, it sounds like it's just way too much. So I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. Then I was like, but this sound still isn't, I'm not like feeling the sound. So I turned on part B and I said, I just want a saw wave, and I left everything else alone. I was like, screw everything else. And this stuff carries over to both parts. So I didn't really have a choice. And I got this. And I could probably mix A more in there. And that just gives it more body and weight. You might not like it. You may like it. Maybe you want a square wave. I like it. I think it's fine. And I ended up with that. So that's that. Like, I know I went really fast, but I'm assuming you know what all the buttons and knobs and things do for my Harmor from the ground up. Just showing you sort of my thought process behind this thing. Maybe you totally hate this lead. Maybe you like this one a lot more. I'm not going to lie. I like that. There's something to it just being simple. simple things have a thing to them. And this is one of those examples of just a simple thing. That all these other tricks that I showed you over here, these are all like, it's kind of overbearing, honestly, from all the complexity. And it doesn't, I don't know. It's just a little overbearing. It might be something you're into, might not be. I liked it. But you may consider throwing those in occasionally as automation tricks. So you automate it in, automate it out. That way you create this interesting movement in your track with a simple sound. So you're taking a simple sound and just making it a little bit ornate to keep interest. That's that. If you have any questions, let me know. Subscribe and have a blessed day.